Good morning. Let's read the statement and we'll be able to take the question as we move on. This is the press release for the special CEC held on the 3rd February 2016. The Congress of South African Trade Unions convened a one-day special Central Executive Committee meeting yesterday to discuss the Taxation Law Amendment Act. The meeting also reflected on the Border Management Agency and a briefing on the recent leaked Interim Basic Education Ministerial Task Team report. The special CEC took place at a time when the economy is shedding jobs across all sectors and the level of unemployment has reached an alarming 35%. The deepening level of poverty are exacerbated by the emergence and the increase in the rate of the working poor, where more than 60% of workers are earning less than 5,000 rand. The rate of exploitation is increasing, with big business consolidating their profit maximizing maneuvers at the expense of the working class. The rate of precarious employment is increasing at the same rate of exploitation. The meeting also took place in the context of the sharpening class contradiction that have coincided with the increasing control of the South African economy by international monopoly capital. The economic downturn, which comes with the capitalist maneuvers and the incoherence of our revolutionary alliance, has reinforced the power of the domestic counter-revolutionary forces. The recent takeover SABC Miller, SAB Miller, AB Inbeck merger is a sign the arrogance and the boldness of the free market foundation and the big business approach or reluctance to take seriously discussion in the minimum wage is a sign that they are emboldened. The big business is putting a spanner in the wheel with regard to the process that are meant to finalize an agreement for the legislated national minimum wage. We'll be heightening our campaign against the Free Market Foundation, against an attempt to undermine workers' rights. We're also mobilizing against the EXCOM electricity tariff hike application. There's an obvious class polarization taking place in our society, and unfortunately, it is also finding expression within our movement, and it is increasingly become the dividing political line. Whilst we have seen the convergence within the ANC-led alliance on the national content of the National Democratic Revolution, including consensus on the radical phase of our transition, there is, however, a chasm of the class content, which is being driven by the state, which seeks to undermine this consensus in practice. There are also many policies that are being pursued by the state whose content is meant to hollow out and erode the hard-won rights of the workers. It is also patently obvious that some of these developments are the reflection of the weaknesses in the organizational power of the working class. This weakness has emboldened the class enemies, and they feel confident that they can unleash an offensive against Cosatu without repercussions. We have no illusions about our weakness, but neither must our class enemies and detractors be overconfident and exaggerate their strength. We want to make it clear that this offensive will receive an equal response from the workers and all the progressive forces. We want to see all the progressive resolutions and the policies that have been adopted by the Alliance and the 52nd Polokwane ANC Conference and the Mangaung Conference of the ANC. The special CEC therefore located this unilateral enactment of this law by government without a comprehensive social security paper as not only the provocation of workers, but as a worrying rejection and abandonment of the alliance and the ANC position by government. The subject of the release of the comprehensive social security paper is a decision of a several Alliance summit and numerous ANC conferences and NGCs. The meeting also characterized the decision and the deliberate ignoring of the Government Commission Taylor Commission report and its recommendation as a wasteful expenditure. Government cannot ignore or allow the recommendation of this paid-for commission to gather dust. The Special CEC reiterated its rejection of this law and called for it to be scrapped. The meeting rejected the myth that workers do not want to save, but pointed out that they do not earn enough to save. It also reminded government that workers all around the country participated in the stokvels, in the saving schemes every day to try and save from their meager wages, and all they need are incentive and not a patronizing law. The meeting expressed concern that NETLAC is being made redundant and undermined, and also that parliamentarians are sleeping at the wheel. They should have insisted on the NETLAC report first before passing the law. The NETLAC Act has been abandoned by both Parliament and the Cabinet, and the parliamentarian must know that they are the custodians of the NETLAC Act. Cosatu, therefore, shall wage a serious battle to revive and defend the integrity of this institution of our democracy. The context of this struggle was also located to be beyond just the Provident Fund laws, but to about the case of a classical neoliberalism offensive from government that preaches austerity measures and also expects workers to pay for their sins of others. This offensive is represented by the government's emerging call for cutting social spending and the unilateral moderation or even threats to cancel workers' wage increase to please foreign rating agencies. This law will deny workers the right to use their money to improve their lives, while allowing pension fund managers and consultants to continue living in opulence using the same workers' money. The recent report pointing to the mismanagement of pension fund and provident funds and the unemployment insurance fund have widened the trust deficit between workers and government. Going forward, the meeting called for the escalation of the campaign through the mobilization of workers, of Cosatu members and workers in general, alliance partners, progressive civil society, and communities against this law. We know, as proven by history, that workers are their own liberators and will liberate themselves from these laws. They will not plead for the scrapping of this law, but they will fight for the scrapping of this law. They will do what they have always done in these situations. They will not beg, but they will demand. They will fight for their rights and defend their hard-earned gains. The meeting appreciated that the ANC-NEC instructed that there be a meeting between us and Treasury. This political intervention is a result of the pressure that has been put by the Federation to all affected parties on this matter. We appreciate that as soon as this matter was brought to the attention of the ANC, they convened a meeting between us and the officials, which was followed out by the ANC-NEC Lekgotla that instructed Treasury to meet with us. We'll continue to engage with all stakeholders, especially government, but the CEC was very clear that Cosatu should defend its resolution and cannot afford to rely on goodwill and benevolence of government, especially considering the trust deficit that has developed between us and government. Going forward, we shall act urgently to mobilize and galvanize workers, starting with the lunchtime pickets and protest action at NETLAC office tomorrow during the Section 77 notice engagement. Between now and the Cosatu Ordinary CEC, which is taking place between the 22nd and the 24th of February 2016, we expect all our affiliates to organize protests at the Treasury's offices and also convene workplace meetings and report back session in the workplace. There will also be lunchtime pickets, town-based meeting, and that mobilization process will be assessed by Cosatu Ordinary CEC later this month. The nationwide Shop Steward Council and protest will continue after the normal CEC and will also include provincial marches. This will be in preparation for a massive general strike that is planned to coincide with the implementation date of this law, which is the 1st of March 2016, subject, of course, to the NETLAC engagement tomorrow. Our consolidated program will be circulated to you. The message coming from the CEC is very clear. We will not stop this campaign if the law is not scrapped. We want the whole process of Social Security and Pension Fund reform to be restarted at NETLAC. Retirement saving belongs to workers and they will decide what they want to do with them and no one else. The tactics to divide workers and the misinformation campaign from the state has not worked. Workers are united on these issues, and the Federation will lead them to battle this campaign. Workers will not resign because that will weaken our organizational power, and it is tantamount to cowardice and giving up. Some of our struggles are already yielding results. We are happy that government has concluded a sectoral determination for farm workers, but we're also concerned that they are delaying on the promulgation of the sectoral determination in the wholesale and retail sectors. We're happy with the content of the UIF proposal. On the Border Management Agency, which is the second issue that we discuss in the CEC, the Special CEC also received report about the planned Border Management Agency bill by the Department of the Home Affairs, working with other departments. These agencies are likely meant to police our porous borders. Another law is also planned to formalize the formation of this border agency bill. The Special CEC overwhelmingly and totally rejected this agencyfication of the state. It noted that our government is slowly legislating all South African problems instead of dealing with them. Our experience as a federation is that these agencies do not solve service delivery problems, but they create an elite force of workers who are overpaid to do what they can be done by workers in the government department. They are also looted and abused by the political interest and end being more expensive to the taxpayer. Some of the proposed aspects of this agency will also undermine the binding nature of collective bargaining and will allow ministers to unilaterally determine the salaries and recruitment outside of the bargaining process. Agencyfication in general takes out the right to strike, destroy the collective bargaining, and their proposed enforcement of confidentiality will undermine the workers' right. There are enough laws already in place dealing with the information management. Agencies have been abused in this country and not accountable, as we have seen with many of them. This proposal also goes against the ANC position of strengthening the capacity of the state. The ANC clearly stated that one of the identified reasons for the unresponse state was the outsourcing and the emasculation of the state. The ANC and the alliance position are ambiguous in that we need to increase the capacity of the state so that the state can drive the movement's developmental agenda. This is a deviation from that understanding and will vigorously oppose it if it's unilaterally imposed on the workers. All these goals can be achieved under the umbrella of the department themselves, working together and also improving the levels of efficiency. On the Ministerial Task Team report, this is a report that was dealing with the alleged selling of post. The Federation also discussed and condemned the leak and the sometimes political finding of the Basic Education Ministerial Task Team investigating the selling of the post in schools. Firstly, the CEC condemned the leaking of the report and concluded that it is a deliberate attempt meant to smear, malign, and alienate our affiliate Cosatu in public. Some of the leaked information, including the recommendation coming out of this report, is very troubling for the Federation. The report goes on even to cite the ANC, Cosatu, and the SACP as the corrupt parties colluding to corrupt the education system. It recommends the creation of a staff association to replace Cosatu from organizing principal, heads of department, and other office workers. It also recommends the isolation and exclusion of the school governing bodies from the school recruitment process. This goes against the ANC theme of advancing the people's power. We call on the minister to refrain from publicly using Cosatu as a scapegoat, and she must also stop the leaking of this report. The parties being smeared by these leaks were not even given an opportunity to respond and defend themselves. We shall escalate this issue to our upcoming CEC at the end of the month. Cosatu is clear that it will not stand idly while the campaigning is emerging and underway to undermine the Federation and its affiliates throughout the laws of schools. The message is clear. Workers are ready for a fight. Thank you, Comrade Sizwe.
Thank you, Comrade JS. We are now going to take questions. We just want you to tell us your name, your media house, and then you can ask your questions. So the first round is going to be 4 or 5 questions.
Thank you very much. Tony Gambi from ENCA. If the President does give in and scraps this law, will this not further contribute to a weakened, an already weakened head of state, if you take into account the Taxation debacle and the increasing unhappiness around his relationship with the Gupta family? Thank you.
Imran Shah from SABC News. On the issue of the upcoming elections, the special CEC discussed Cosatu's position, given all these challenges that you have highlighted, and unhappiness with the ANC-led government. Are you, as the CEC, did you discuss whether Cosatu is going to back the ANC again, as we've seen in the past in the elections?
Thank you, it's Kelvin from Eyewitness News. Okay, man, it's just can I get some clarity? You've mentioned, I think in the second paragraph, the rate of precarious employment is increasing at the same rate of exploitation. I just wanted to find out an elaboration on this precarious employment. And then you mentioned 2 paragraphs below, I think you meant to say big business putting a spanner in the wheel with regard to the finalization of the agreement for the legislated national minimum wage. And you said you will also campaign against the Free Market Foundation. Just get elaboration on the details of that campaign and how big business is stifling the agreement. Thank you.
Carl Gnetti from Business Day. Yeah, just when will you be meeting with Treasury on this issue? If it is a time, and just to add on to the question, because this obviously has been signed into law by President Zuma. How would the process work if you were demand that this goes back in there that will actually be met? Who would be responsible for kind of overturning that or delaying the implementation of the Act? Thanks.
Okay, President.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sizwe. The call for the bill to be scrapped, and people interpreting that if it does happen that way, it therefore means the president is further weakened. I think it's a political question which we'll try to respond to quite politically. Firstly, starting by saying Cosatu makes this call purely informed by its desire to have this law scrapped or repealed, not by a desire to weaken the state president. We are making this call because we believe that this law is wrong. And by the way, Cosatu is not putting the blame on the president for having signed this law, because we, in our own understanding, the processes of the promulgation of the law is a very, very long procedure. He becomes the final point of call. So if there was any blame, which we have already been putting, and even in our statement right now, when we're saying parliamentarians were sleeping on the wheel, we're not talking about the president. We're talking about the people who passed this law, who were supposed to ask a question. Has consultation processes at NEDLAC been exhausted? And what is the report of NEDLAC saying about deliberations at NEDLAC? The president would have been nowhere to be the deciding factor there. So we cannot even begin to point a finger to the president when the very same law, Linda Court, I must give you an answer. This law, when it is passed, it is supported by political parties in parliament. All of them. And I still dare say all of them, because even those who are still shouting and saying we're lying, they did not support. We never had them doing anything to reject this law. So they are complicit. It has been supported by all political parties in parliament. It's a law that is so bad for the workers in South Africa, supported by all parties in parliament. Now, the question we are asking, will therefore a repeal of this law not add to an understanding that says therefore Zuma is a weak president because he has recalled Van Rooyen and replaced him with Pravin Gordhan at the time when everybody was condemning the appointment. And he has now said he is going to pay, he's willing to pay a portion of the Nkandla work that was done there, and therefore he's a weak president. Cosatu is not looking at that window. We're not looking at a weak president. We have said we commend him actually for having taken a bold step to even say I am going to pay a portion as determined by the public protector. And we think that should allow that matter to close. But we know it's not going to close because it's a political tool for political parties, particularly from the opposition. We understand that very well. But as the workers, were not confused about that to be then focusing on the president about this matter. Secondly, we did not discuss the election SABC. We will be discussing the elections in the normal Central Executive Committee meeting, where we continue to do our own assessment and oiling our machinery for the elections. But we have always continued to make the point that with the taxation law in place and no willingness from government to repeal this law, it will be very, very difficult as we will be going out on the campaign to put aside that issue and say, workers, forget about the pensions, let's go and vote. Which is why we say we acknowledge in our statement and appreciate the fact that the ANC, NEC has initiated and facilitated that let this matter be resolved as speedily as possible. And we want to believe that they are genuine in calling so. We've already had a few meetings with the ANC themselves. We've had a meeting with Treasury. There are scheduled meetings for NEDLAC tomorrow, but there are also other scheduled meetings with Treasury to find a solution to this matter. I will then take the last from my bit. Which is from Business Day, because I will not deal with Gavin's very critical questions about the precarious employment. Comrades will deal with that. We continue to meet with Treasury, but meeting outside must not undermine the processes of NEDLAC. We're going to NEDLAC tomorrow, where we're discussing our Section 77, and that's where we are going to be putting up front these issues of Cosatu's concern about this matter, the absence of a debate on the comprehensive social security, and a range of other issues that we are highlighting. We'll be doing that at NEDLAC. Once and when we reach an agreement or an understanding, that will then have to talk to the law, how it is then changed to accommodate this consent, or it is repealed to be started afresh, which is what is Cosatu's call. The processes of government would have to kick in, which we do not seek to interfere with such processes. Where NEDLAC has concluded a discussion and then parliamentary processes kick in. The relevant government department responsible for that will do so. But I also would want to understand, we are raising this question also because there is a possibility of parallel processes. When the ANC on one side says, let this be discussed, what does it say to the processes of parliament and the fact that there is a law? Again, the ANC knows how it must tackle that. When the presidency is now involved in finding a solution because it is now at the level of the president where this law was finally passed through, they know what procedures to follow when they have to face a situation where they must either withdraw the law or amend the law, realizing that there are things that need to be changed. And I think we're not yet at that space. Let's allow that there are engagement processes that have started right now. And yeah, Gavin's question, Protect.
No, thanks, Comrade President. Just to repeat the last question in terms of the processes. All processes will have to follow a legal route in terms of scrapping those sections that we disagree with them. It has to go to NEDLAC. There are various ways of dealing with these particular issues, whether it's the long way that you go to Parliament or you use other avenues available. We're also exploring those issues as to how quick. We would not want to go to the 6-month processes, go to the Parliament, go to the committees, and only conclude this matter by August, October this year. We wanted the shortest, the quickest way to ensure that workers' interests are protected on these issues. This is linked to the first question that how government should be seen if they concede to our demand. I think it should be seen as a government that listens. That when the issues are raised that are not correct and government act in a positive way, it should be a government that listen to the issues that are being raised. So it should not be regarded as a weakness. It should be regarded as a government that listen, that act promptly to the issues that are being raised. Now, of course, the law will not be repealed by the president. I think it will be repealed through the processes, the legislative processes, and within the law in dealing with those. That's why our issues of NETLEC become paramount, because we want to defend that institution and want to defend the NETLEC Act. In regard to the precarious employment, in any economy, jobs are lost and created every day. But the scenario that is worrying us is that the jobs that are being destroyed are the decent and the quality jobs. I mean, mines are going to be retrenching. We are being told that in the retail, there are a number of big companies that are retrenching jobs. But at the same time, jobs are created every day. The difference is that the jobs that are being created are temporary in nature, they are precarious, they are lowly paid. They are not the quality jobs. That's what we're talking about here. And when the jobs are created in that form, it just increases and extends the poverty, that the working workers, the working poor, just increase as you try to address your employment, which is one of the issues that we were not keen to talk about. Lowly paid jobs, one quality and decent work. On the big business, I think the Free Market Foundation today is holding its press conference. We are going to be engaged with the Free Market Foundation on the week of the 22nd on that week of February, where they are demanding, or which they are attacking the collective bargaining. We disagree with them. We disagree with their spokespersons, Herman Mashaba, the DA candidate for Johannesburg. We disagree with them. So it's going to be an issue that now has to be decided legally. But we're not only banking in terms of the court decision on these particular issues. It's an issue that we are going to fight in the streets. We're going to be upping up our demonstrations against their actions. On the national legislated national minimum wage, the President in his State of the Nation address last year tasked NETLEC under the leadership of Deputy President. The intention and the work plan was to finish this work as early as July 2015. Unfortunately, business has been dragging here. They are not playing the ball. They do every trick in the book not to engage honestly in terms of those issues, which then will be one of the issue that the President has to report in the State of the Nation address. I think the report, as we say, it is going to be a weak report because not much progress is being done here. Of course, we see the same thing from government, that they are largely warm in terms of these issues. They are not pushing enough as we push in terms of getting these issues legislated. So that's why we're referring to the big business putting the spanner in the work, and many workers, which are the vulnerable workers, will suffer due to the delay in regard to those particular issues. I think, Comrade President, we exhausted some of the questions. There might be follow-up in terms of.
Okay, this round that we are
actually follow up.
is the last round.
So the other way schedule them to be.
Yeah, we may follow up. How can the follow up?
Yeah, in fact, all this is going to be one of those people who will attend to outside of the press. Yes? Yes. Okay.
Are you seeing many of your members resigning as a result of these tax laws? And the second question is, will you be working with other organizations, especially NOMSA or 9+, because they are also campaigning against these tax laws? And is there still trust between you and is there still trust left between you and the government? Because sometimes they seem to be undermining you by taking laws without even seemingly not consulting you.
Yeah, actually we touched on the, I mean, this last question touched on what I wanted to ask. Is this relation of the alliance, I mean, Cosatu and the SSCP have been saying that we want to swell the ranks of the ANC, but it doesn't seem like it's working. I mean, for the ANC, this law is to assist workers who, I mean, in the past have cashed in their pensions and misused them. So they want to arrest that particular situation. And I'm sure the president of Cosatu said would have agreed with fellow NEC members to say that this is to assist workers. So, I mean, why is it that every time you agree with your alliance partner, the ANC, the first thing you would think of is to go to the street, but and then you come and tell people that no, we will vote for the ANC.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask a question in a different way, I suppose. Because I think it follows logic that the president signed the legislation or the legislation into law. Yes, you, I suppose, are sheltering him now. You're protecting him by saying that he's not the only one at fault and other arms of the state are implicit or complicit rather. But surely any person with reason will surely see that as you simply defending and protecting President Jacob Zuma. As you've already mentioned, the Gandla saga is yet another further in the opposition parties who have consistently banged on to say he needs to pay the Gandla money, and for the longest time he's refused to do this, but now has recently given in. You can't possibly dismiss the perception, because unfortunately perceptions are a reality, that he is increasingly becoming weakened, even from your own alliance partners. In fact, he has been questioned on the Gupta matter, even at the alliance, at the NEC level, raised by an alliance partner, the SACP. Why are you protecting President Zuma?
Yeah, sure. Amos from SABC News. My question is a bit linked to that of Matuma. Just to basically find out as to how confident are you that with this matches that you're planning to have, you'll actually win this battle, considering that
you had similar matches as far as e-tolls are concerned, but we have seen very little results from that.
Okay, thank you, man. I've got two questions, please. The first one relates to Nkandla, and I'd just like to get a straight answer, please, from the president. What do you think of President Jacob Zuma saying he won't pay the money back and now saying he will? His change of mind. I'd just like to get your assessment on that. And then secondly, I'd like to interrogate this claim by Cosatu that there was no consultation on the pension reform. So if you go on the Parliamentary Monitoring Group website and you look at the outcome of what happened in Parliament, it says that there was extensive consultation over 2 years, and from the onset, Cosatu did not agree with it, but other players such as NACTU and Producer and government were on board. And I've spoken to NEDLAC, and they say in their view, consultation did take place, but there's no report because there was no consensus that was reached there. So I'd just like to get a response from Cosatu on this insistence by the Treasury that it did in fact consult, and it's using that Parliament report as evidence that it consulted.
Okay. Is it right? Yes, Bernard from New Age. With all these renderings among alliance members, does it not signal that the political and ideological orientations of the alliance members are too far apart for there to be common ground? And I say this in light of e-tolls, I say this in light of the now tax laws as well. Because the alliance was founded upon ushering a new democratic dispensation and removing the adaptive regime. Since the two have been achieved, what is the glue that keeps the alliance together in a democratic dispensation? And then the last question, on the President Zuma and the Nkandla saga, since the President initially said that he will not pay back the money and he has now decided to make a U-turn, is that not an admission of guilt? President.
Some of the questions are linked. We'll try to combine these questions. And I think it is fair to start with Godly's question again. Are we protecting President Zuma? Or why are we protecting President Zuma? That's the alternate question to that one. We're not protecting President Zuma. I think he has the best lawyers that has always been on his side to advise him on how he handles the legal issues. And we know the expectation that as long as Cosatu does not condemn Zuma, so he remains standing. That's the expectation from people. They are waiting for the day Cosatu will say Zuma must fall. We will never say that when there's no reason to say that. And we are not going to be pushed into saying President Zuma must fall, which is the agenda that we understand is unfolding from different quarters. So I want just to put it categorically clear that we would not throw ourselves into an agenda or a program that will be calling for Zuma to step down. We are raising these issues, understanding very well how the processes in Parliament go until there is a law. And indeed, we have said, why would the President sign this law when at our Congress we said this law should not be signed until we could find each other. and then consequentially you would expect that because we are saying so, we are therefore attacking Zuma. We're simply asking a question. President, what did these people say to you that convinced you that everything was in order? But that question has been answered already. President Zuma chairs the NEC meetings of the ANC. He chaired the Hotla of the ANC. We were there and partook in the debate about this issue, and the decision of the ANC, which is binding everyone, is clear. He was not forced by the ANC to accept this. He was part of the decision that says Cosatu is complaining, and should Cosatu be given an opportunity to place his case even when the law has been passed, and that's the decision that is binding everybody. That's why you can ask this question and turn it all round on all sides of it. We'll still say we will not budge into an agenda that says we must single out President Zuma when we are complaining about this law. We are saying it was wrong for this law to be passed without considering the issues that we wanted to raise and we have raised. It was wrong for parliamentarians to pass this law. I repeat, it was wrong for all the political parties to pass this law without considering what we were saying. So why then should we be singling one person? So Cosatu is not in that space. We will refuse to be in that space because it will defocus from the real issue we're dealing with. We're dealing with a law that is wrong, that is affecting us as the workers, and we want that law to be changed. A correction, in that NEC, which I said, there was a discussion about what has now been called the elephant in the room, and that being referred to one family, a business in South Africa, that let that be a discussion. In no way was that linked to President Zuma in that discussion in the NEC. I'm talking about in the NEC. There was no discussion about President Zuma and his family in the NEC of the ANC, which discussed this challenge we are now raising, that it cannot be that we have a situation where there is a perception that there is a family that manipulates things in government and elsewhere for business interests. That I wanted to clear that thing so that we put it behind. So it's linked then to the question Matumo is raising of trust. In our statement, we do warn that because of this law, but also because of us taking stock of other policies that are anti-workers or that are anti-us, which have been passed by our parliament. I can mention them. The Labour Law Amendment Bill, which was responding also to our call for a total ban of labour brokers, but it regulates labour brokers, was against the workers. It was against the workers. We wanted a total ban. We're getting a 3 months. The law on the e-toll, on the e-tolls, was against the workers. It was passed. And does that therefore keep trust levels high between us and our government that we vote as workers in this country? It does affect the trust levels, which is why we've been very frank and robust to the ANC to say we can't allow a situation where government goes amok and puts up laws that are anti-workers, and people must say it's okay. It's not okay if that happens. And the call we continue to make to our democratic government, because I said here before, a democratic government is a government that listens to its people, or to the people, because it's the government of the people, by the people, for the people. So it does affect those. Does it therefore say the alliance is irrelevant? It talks to the trust relations in the alliance. We have heard us say before elsewhere. We believe that we should be treated equally in the alliance. We're not saying we should be treated equally as the ANC. We're not equal to the ANC. The ANC is not equal to Cosatu. We're saying in the alliance we must respect each other, we must treat each other with equal levels of respect and treatment. That is our call. And people would want to confuse this in any way. For us, we're clear on that what it does, Madumo, affect the trust relations. Because you agree and you don't implement what has been agreed to. That does talk to the trust levels, which has got to be addressed within the alliance. I always avoid Madumo, questions that are in a subtle way personal. Because I know the next question shows to me you have agreed with this in the NEC of the ANC. And I've always said to comrades, but I sit there, I don't represent Cosatu. I'm a member of the ANC. I do not represent Cosatu in the ANC NEC. I'm a member of the African National Congress. From Ward 86, that's my branch, Mlas. So it's usually a blackmailing question, and it's what our detractors usually want to use when they want to weaken us, either in the ANC or outside the ANC. How can you say this thing about us in the ANC and we are weakening, we are decampaigning the ANC, when I state the clear positions of the Federation and I'm not speaking on my own. And for the record, this matter we're talking about of the taxation law now was never discussed in the ANC NEC. It's only in the last NEC meeting that this matter came and be discussed, not before. So, and when it was discussed, the NEC said Cosatu is right, Cosatu must be listened to. So that's what happened. I wish we should look into that. Lastly, and the rest comrades should take that, is the whole notion of members resigning. By the way, they are not resigning from Cosatu unions only. They belong to a number of unions. So all unions in the public service and elsewhere do cry that they are losing members who, in a panic mode, would have been resigning. And we have made this call that people should not do that, because it doesn't help them to resign just because they think the law is bad. It's not right. They should not do so, because they will then be placed into poverty. Now, we have a clear Cosatu resolution on the voting for the African National Congress, the swelling of the ranks of the ANC, and participating in the structures of the ANC as members. So we continue to do so. That has not changed. It has not been affected. We still remain at 1,923 members, 43. That's our total membership as we stand today. 1,923 and 43 members. That's the Cosatu membership. We're growing strong, and I think we're increasing. So workers, by and large, are happy that there is Cosatu. they are belonging to a Cosatu union. They are happy that Cosatu is aligned with the ANC. They have endorsed that in the last Congress, so we're keeping it like that. Take the rest and complete it.
Take it.
Sure. Okay.
There's one question from Amos, from the president. He says, how confident are you are going to win this one? We say as Cosatu, this is a fight we must win. That's all we can say in response to your question. This is a fight we must win. It is about the life of the Federation. Therefore, we must win this one.
Just go back to what the president has said. In a struggle, there are no guarantees. You win some, you lose some, you meet in the middle road in some of them. Nobody knew that by 1994 we're going to have a breakthrough. Others never returned. Others came back and they are enjoying the fruits of that liberation struggle. So there are no guarantees, comrade. Our belief is that we must mix both the boardroom battles as well as the street battles. That's why in our program we are planning for both of them. The difference, though, Gavin, on the consultation is that this week alone there will be 3 meetings with the treasurer. We met on Monday, we're meeting today, and we're meeting tomorrow. It has never happened before. So we are determined to continue to work in the manner that the Congress says that we are opposed to this particular piece of legislation. Now, we can debate these issues of whether consultation or not, and people may believe whatever side of the story they want. I mean, you seem to come to the conclusion that we don't believe you, Cosatu, no matter what you can say, but we believe the treasurer. I mean, there's a choice we are making. Now, we said to you last time, ask the treasurer to give evidence of the meeting that they are talking about, the 22 and the 15. But what you are telling us is that there's a parliamentary report in which we are not presented that says there were a number of meetings. Who would have given that report to Parliament that there were a number of meetings, except Treasurer? Who else? Now, another journalist wrote about this weekend and says, I have checked and I've done these things and I'm convinced now that there was no proper consultation. It's one of yours, I mean, in the field that you are on. He said he's convinced. Others said, no, we don't believe Cosatu, we choose to believe Treasury. There is no NETLEC report. We sit in NETLEC. There is no NETLEC report. The NETLEC report will tell you, the NETLEC report does not have to have a consensus or an agreement, but it will say, we met on which dates and when. The minutes that you may be referring to of NETLEC, it says, we never concluded these particular issues. There were only 2 meetings, in 2015. Will you regard that as a consultation? No, at all. Consultation should be meaningful, should try to find a conclusion in terms of those. That's why the Parliament give weight to the NETLEC consultation. It's not just a question of going in there and said, this is what we want to present to Parliament, do you agree? And then if other people say, no, got different views and said we have consulted. That is not consultation. Now, we hope that on the records that you may have, we are not going to be entertaining these particular issues. We are not debating it with Treasurer now, whether it was consultation or not. We're debating on the issue that we don't like, and we said, take them, restart the processes in a proper way, present the comprehensive social security report. And Treasury said, no, fine, we're working towards that one. They told us that now they are working together with the social development. They are co-chairing the comprehensive social task team, the interdepartmental one, which is a good news. That they are now doing together with the social development, which we have been asking why this thing is led by Treasury and not by social development, which has the really custodian in dealing with the social security. So we're making progress in terms of those issues. In the issues of the departments, we must accept that there are progressive legislation that on our insistence have been passed. In last year in our Congress, you can go back to the report, there's a list of legislations that came through NETLEC in which we have made a positive contribution, in which we claim this was a victory for Cosatu. We mentioned a lot of them. Even the current bill now, before the one that is before Parliament on the public hearing on the UIF, it is Cosatu. This sectoral determination that we're talking about, we're making a positive input. So we can tick. You can put all the department and you say, on this department, we have made and achieved so many positive bill for us. But in this one, we have not. And it is not a secret that we have some difficulties with Treasury. We fought with the Treasury on the youth incentive. They did not go to NETLEC at that time. They just used the money bill and said they think it's not a socio-economic issue. They go ahead. When did they pass that law? Or they make they gazetted that particular law? December, when workers were on holiday. When did this one was signed was given to the president? On the Christmas Eve. And they said the president will have consulted now and then deal with those parties. So there are a number of issues that we don't find one another with Treasury. But we're confident that this one we're going to win. Because it has not been done properly, we've not been listened to, and Treasury has not submitted the comprehensive social security in dealing with those issues. Of course, we said in our statement, we will mobilize every member of the society, progressive members in those things. Now, somebody is referring to 9+ that have no name. We don't know who is this 9+. People are talking 9+1, 9+. Where do the 9+ live and which way can go and say, yeah, these are the identity of the 9+. Even those who talk about the 9+, they can't give names.
And you don't ask them.
And you don't, who's the 9+ that we are referring to? We're here today, yesterday. Cosatu unions were here. And those who could not be here, they apologize in terms of the normal things. So we're asking like yourselves, if you can tell us who the 9+, so that when we mobilize, we can mobilize all of them to go with these things. Where were all the other people when we stand alone and said we are going to oppose these things? Why, when we then say as Cosatu, we disagree with these particular things? Where were the others? Where were the 9+? Why it has to wait for Cosatu to say we oppose these particular things, and others may then say we too? We're not condemning for following up on something that is wrong, to be raising the flag for the good reasons. So, there will be a number of these things. We discuss in the Congress the swelling of the ranks. And I think we made a number of issues, and it says those who are swelling the ranks coming from Cosatu, we hope, because we don't have control of them. We're not deploying people to the ANC. People go there on their own right as members of the ANC. were mentioning all of them. I mean, in this thing, they said, from the deputy president of the country, we can claim it's coming from Cosatu. The SG, Lisija Lekhanyak, was working here. We hope got that confidence that he learned something from Cosatu. We mentioned them, the number of ministers and deputy ministers. We mentioned the mayors, the premiers. I mean from Edna former to Kivit to Makura, number of them. So we're swelling the ranks. That's the issue that we're raising in the Congress. But still, we're not having the influence that we think we should have. And the question is that, what is it that we need to do more in order to be able to claim that we're occupying those sites of the struggles? And that's what the Federation is working hard to deal with this. So let me stop there, Comrade President. Others, we can deal with those issues on one-on-one and deal with those particular issues. This still will be still Cosatu to those who might not have asked questions. They will ask, I mean, those one by one, and of course they will be able to get the answers.
Yeah, perhaps just to be fair to Gavin on the question around what do I think of President Zuma? I think of President Zuma as the president of the ANC that is leading the ANC with great impetus on the organization. I sit in the meetings where he chairs the meetings. I see a president that indeed members would have not made a mistake in electing. As the president of the Republic, again, he leads within the collective there. There's been a range of challenges. There's not a single president here in this democracy that we've had who have experienced the attacks from the day when he came into office till today. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. I'm sure it will go on and on until the end of his term in government. I've never seen a single one attacked as much as he has been attacked, but still keeping his cool and laughs under the circumstances. In the context of his leadership, I look at him in the context of the collective leadership of the ANC in government. And I want to keep it at that. You were specific a little bit and saying NUMSA, but I think he has answered it by saying the 9+. We are happy when everybody stands up and says this bill is wrong. We're happy with that because we are vindicated. We're vindicated by also some of you as journalists who really trouble yourselves and do the work and go and research and go to Netlec, show us the minutes, and Netlec shows you something, and then you can come to your own conclusions. And we're happy with those assessments that we have done in investigating the veracity of this matter. And you can boldly say, indeed, Cosatu has been right to say they were not consulted. We're not going to be spoke much about the now to have admitted that this law is okay for their members. It's their business. Fedusa saying their members are okay with this law is their business. Our members are not okay. The widows at Poshevstin, the widows of the former public servants, are not happy with how they are taxed right now because their husbands have died or their spouses have died because of the taxation system in our country. We must say something about that.
Please, can I just ask one question?
Okay, no, I'm not allowing anyone who's already asked a question. I'm going to take you and John.
Marika from Jacaranda FM. I just wanted to find out, I don't know if you guys are aware of obviously the EFF presser that's going on now. What effectively has been said is that any journalist that works for any Gupta publication will be banned from future EFF pressers, interviews, anything. Now, as the bastion, I guess, of workers, which we fall under, what is your response to excluding workers, stopping them from being able to do their jobs because of either who they work for or a specific individual within that company?
Yeah, no, that was.
You just take.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Please let me go back to something that was said by the president. I like sound bites. I've just been tickled by something that Mr. Samini said. Please clarify it for me before I sit down at the computer and get carried away. You're saying it was wrong for all political parties to pass this law.
Yes.
I'm afraid there's very little you can do with the position of other political parties.
Right.
Your best bet is within the alliance, and especially the NEC where you sit as a member. Shouldn't you perhaps be concentrating on, and I'm saying this because the backstop supreme is the man who will sign this into law. Shouldn't your efforts be concentrated on this president whose level of coolness you admire, rather than worrying yourself over the positions of other political parties, because you will not win.
Okay, that was the last one. Let me start with the first one. If it is true indeed that the FF is doing that, of banning all workers who are journalists in areas which they believe are controlled by the Guptas, they will be making a mistake. It can't be done, because workers are workers. And from what we hear, the FF claims to be representing the interest of the workers. I hope they don't commit that mistake. I really hope so. I really hope they don't take such a decision to target employees in areas which they think are belonging to the Gupta business. My brother, you see, we are the workers. And it is workers in this country who vote political parties. All of them. And they expect that these political parties, when they make decisions in parliament, they will think of the interest of the workers. All political parties. And Cosatu is not a political party. Cosatu understands that it has members who belong to all political parties. So when we say parliamentarians from all political parties on this matter, they were sleeping on the wheel, we mean it. And we take it from our members who belong to a range of political parties who are saying we're not happy with this law and we want this law to be changed. So we're not wrong to expect members of parliament of all political parties to now stand up with us and say, indeed, this law must be changed. They must do so, because they have made an error judgment in passing a law that is so terrible for the workers in this country. And we will not be pushed into it's one political party. I've seen political parties in opposition standing firm and forcing the ANC to go back to the drawing board to review a law. This time around, I never heard them do so. I watched Channel 405. There's other channel of Parliament, 408.
408.
No. I never saw this matter debated in this channel. I never heard what these political parties stood to say about this law that workers are not happy with. So that's where we stand on that issue.
Thank you, President. I'm going to hand over to the Deputy General Secretary to just go through the program, just as a reminder of the program that was outlined in the class in special season.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Comrade Sidgwick. I think the one page of the program has been distributed to you, starting from today, the 4th, in the press conference. Tomorrow we will be at the NetLab Section 77, where we have some few workers and shop stewards picketing outside NetLab offices. From the 6th to the 9th, we will be giving feedback to members in the entire country for the outcome of engagement of NetLab. 11 and 12, it will be Cosatu campaigns to update and develop a real program for the enrollment up to the 1st. And the 12th will be a briefing meeting with the allied partners and civil society after the campaigns meetings. 15th to the 19th February will be Cosatu PECs receiving reports, including the decisions to develop the program also and give feedback to the workplace. The 19th will be shop steward and members protesting at the National Treasurer's offices. The 22nd up to the 24th will be Cosatu Normal CEC assessing the development of the program that has been started today, including getting the feedback from the NetLab engagement. And the 26th will be a national protest by shop steward and members and treasurer's office again. The 27th to the 28th will be Cosatu Provincial Shop Steward Council receiving the decision of the CEC, including making sure that members get the clear program of what's happening. On the 1st of March, if this law is not scrapped, we will be going out to the streets, hoping that the journalists will go there to get the views of the members, indeed that the members were not consulted, the workers were not consulted. Thank you very much.